Hey guys, welcome into the Bear With Us podcast. I'm Jack. He is Frank. Oh boy, Frank, I'm still kind of angry from last week about how that game ended, and I'm even more angry that again the Bears are on prime time. I don't want. I love the noon games, man. I love just being able to just hide them in a group. I think what Broncos fans are experiencing is what I don't want. I don't want that at all from the Bears. Just hide them in that noon window. But unfortunately, Monday night we'll talk about them when we get to our picks. But Frank, we wanted to kind of keep this week light because you and I probably, not even probably, by far the most critical of that team of this team that we've been since this season started. And I think it's a good idea to sort of balance out, we were critical, but I think there were still some positives that got overlooked. You and I have seen a ton of overreaction in the following week. There's just been too much time for Bears fans to just sit around talking about, well, what's the worst loss of the George McCaskey era? It's like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, I mean,
why do we have to do this, guys? Like, let's talk about just the team overall. We'll keep it light, and then we'll get into our picks and get out of here. So, Frankie, so far for this season, what would you say has been the most encouraging thing you've seen so far? What's something you feel like it can be a staple of this team, and maybe not just the team overall. I'm talking front office, coaching, all that good stuff. What is something that you think they have established this year that you can see carrying over into next year to hopefully a more complete roster?
That's a good question, and I feel like it's a little bit loaded now that you put the front office in. But I'll be quick because I have a couple of points with it. One, it always starts with the quarterback, and I know people are box score watching and everything. He is made from week one, and I'm not even counting last year because it was a different system. But even from last year, he's made very visible progress. But from week one in the system to week 6, he has made very good progress. Is he perfect? No. Is he still making certain mistakes? Absolutely. But visibly getting, if you're watching these games, he is getting better. And we sort of noted the pocket awareness, him getting the ball out a little bit faster, which is still very overblown to me. Some of the best quarterbacks in the league hold the ball. Aaron Rodgers has made a career of holding the ball too long. Some quarterbacks do that. Deshaun Watson, off the field stuff, yada, yada. I get it. But he was one of the ones as well. Russell Wilson before this year holds the ball a long time. I'm not worried about that. I'm more worried about him progressing in his, being able to read defense a little faster, be more decisive, and we're seeing that. So very encouraging from that aspect of things. Secondly, I think overall the coaching staff, I've been more encouraged than not. Luke Getsy, it seemed like maybe early on he was sort of figuring out who was who and what was what, but like these last 2 weeks in particular, you see the offensive mind that he is. And I think it's really been lack of execution and whether it was a mistake by Justin or a dropped ball that, has deaded really good drives or just whatever. But it hasn't really been on Luke Getsy. Has there been some bad play calls? Yes, but Kyle Shanahan, probably the best play caller. Andy Reid, probably the best play caller. They have bad plays every now and then. It is what it is. It happens. This is the NFL. So that has been encouraging to me. I think, I think really lastly, and I want to touch on Alan Williams as well really quick because I think the way his adjustments from game to game, from half to half, last week blitzing for the first time all year, like he's doing all he can with the group that is not very good. The defense is not very good talent-wise. And then lastly, Jack, we're starting to see some accountability with the front office. They let go of 17. He's gone, which is really good. Hopefully Isaiah Coulter can be a little bit better than he was. I don't know how you could be worse. But yeah, I think we're going to continue to see that, whether that means like bringing in someone like DJ Moore or shuffling the offensive line some more. We are going to continue, this sort of accountability train, if you will. And I think people who were really overreacting, what you were talking about earlier, no matter who it was, whether it was some people on the offensive line and even if it was sort of warranted with like Sam Mustipher, I think they did their due diligence. We're going to give you 5, 6, 7 games before because how can you evaluate someone after 1 or 2 games in a totally new scheme, even if they're being atrocious? I get it. Sam Mustipher, you're singling him out. He's been awful. I would have been okay benching him by week 3. but I think they really gave them a longer leash to really evaluate what was happening. I think we're going to continue to see more and more of these smaller changes really as they evaluate. So I think there's been this year, unless you thought this was a playoff team and a Super Bowl team, which you're out of your mind. This has been, I think, a much more positive than negative year for me. But again, I think me and you are looking at things through a different lens. We're looking for progress, and that doesn't always mean wins. And I think we've seen that.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on it, because that was kind of the big point that I wanted to make. Was it's very strange to me how just this fan base there's just no consistency to it. And it's almost like the Bears are in a no-win situation. The entire offseason, right, you're kind of, you're hearing Bears fans overarching thing is, well, we're not very good. Our team sucks. We're going to be kind of, probably last place. Like, this year's kind of a wash. Then you get the person from ESPN saying that they're the worst roster in football, and everyone's like, hold on. No, they're not. They're definitely not the worst roster in football. Bears fans kind of get on board a little bit. That third preseason game where Justin Fields just explodes and the offense looks incredible, and everybody's like, hold on now. Hold on. We might got something. Get the first game of the season. They win that one, obviously. And then they go into Green Bay and everything shuts down, right? And everybody's like, yep, exactly what I expected. And each week it's like a reset of expectations. It's so weird to me. Like, people look at this team and they're like, why aren't we winning games? Well, the team's not good enough. Well, fire Ryan Poles then. This team should be better. And it's like, oh, what? Like, it's almost like the Bears fans don't know how building a team works, which is just very strange to me. I agree with you. There's things that will carry over into next year. The adjustments that the coaching staff are able to make at halftime, it's almost becoming an expectation in and of itself. Like, first half, even on the defensive side, you're like, I don't know about these calls. Let's see what they adjust to in the second half. And they come out of the halftime and look like a completely different team. It's pretty remarkable. I think it is just going to be about that next step is finding a way to start off strong. What are things that they're doing that lead to these slower starts? And are they keeping it more basic to sort of see how the other team responds, things like that? And Frank, it bothers me to no end to see just how many people are just, well, that loss is on Justin Fields, number one. That was a terrible game from him. How could they lose that? It's all Justin. He's not the guy. Got to draft Bryce Young. Got to draft C.J. Stroud. You have to draft a quarterback high in the draft, because Justin Fields, I just don't know how you realistically watch that game unless you just love to live in misery. Other than Justin Fields had a bad game, but guess what? So did everybody else on that offense. I mean, you really look, who else would you say had a good game? Even Khalil Herbert, to an extent. He had one good run, and that was about it. Nobody else really did anything remarkable. And it's frustrating that we're back here, Frank, because it's basically what you and I had been talking about with Mitch before you and I even started this podcast together, where it's like, if you're going to be bad, but we don't know that he's bad because everybody else is bad too, right? And it's just so, I think I agree with you. The adjustments from this coaching staff have been very encouraging for sure.
And then, but speaking on that point, though, this is why I dislike just the box score watchers. Because,
and the analytics, too. Let's talk about that. You just throwing analytics, you're cherry picking stuff to fit your narrative. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah, it's silly. It's because when you're talking about what the surrounding cast around him, you can't just use stats to evaluate. And this is something that we talked about in the offseason as well. Is like, I don't know if we're comfortable even throwing out, this would be my expectation this year, because we don't know what the hell is around him yet. We don't know if Darnell is a real number one. We don't know if Byron Pringle can be a real number two. Like, there was too many question marks to be like, yeah, we expect 3,500. We did throw out Jalen Hurts the second year of like, that would be great if it was like 3,200 yards, 800, 700 rushing. Like, that would be phenomenal. but I don't know if we made that our expectation. But speaking of the stats, it's like if 17 makes that catch on 4th and 15, that's another play that you draw up for Justin Fields on the highlight film. If Darnell Mooney makes the game-winning catch, that's another touchdown on his record. If they don't call that fake block in the back on that 50-yard run, that's another touchdown. Like, where at some point you have to start using the eye test, because again, it's not to say he's perfect and everything isn't his fault. There are things that are his fault. We've been critical, and rightfully so, because we expect him to make the easy NFL throws, and he does too. He's not. We're not saying anything that he hasn't said. He got up on that podium and said, "I'm an NFL quarterback. I have to make that throw to Ryan Griffin. Whether he's slowed up or not, I have to adjust and make that throw. It's on me." But there's also plays where, your supposed number one, the guy who I think everyone had high expectations for, whether it was because you were high on him or just high on the situation, he was going to get 180 targets or whatever, Darnell Mooney has to make that play. Right. Like, think of other wide receiver ones in the league. A.J. Brown makes that play. You probably have 3 receivers in Kansas City that make that play. 2 or 3 receivers in Miami that make that play. Probably 4 receivers in Buffalo that make that play. Like, big-time players make that play, and he didn't make it. And speaking of him really quick, and this is a quick sidetrack, if I see another fucking clip of him and his jugs machine, something's going to get broken in my household, Jack. Like a monitor, a microphone, a speaker.
But he's got the jugs machine inside.
I don't fucking care, Jack. They love this storyline. He's look at him practicing, and they show this highlight film. I'm trying to make these one-handed grab, and he's bobbling them. Like, you can't get a better highlight film of you catching in your living room, bro. Anyway, but the grander point to what you were saying about drafting another quarterback, the only time we ever considered that is if it was disastrously on Justin Fields. Like, he is just awful. He has been nowhere near that. He hasn't been Josh Rosen. Let's make no mistake about it. The only thing that, like, the bigger complaint that I've had so far this year, or critique maybe I should say, he hasn't put together a full game yet. I need a few of those this year. That doesn't mean I'm going to give up on him, but would be sort of the cherry on top for me. Is you can get me 2 or 3 games where you're, 27 for 31, 300 yards. The whole game you were just sort of zinging it. We've seen a half, we've seen a quarter. Give me the full game, a few times, especially against weaker opponents, But it's very strange to me that people act like a rookie's just going to come in and fix everything. When is the last time that's happened? I know people point to Justin Herbert, but they didn't win. He put up a lot of stats, and that's not downplaying him. He showed that he was NFL ready, and he did phenomenal. And they won fucking 6 games or 7 games. Like, you point to Joe Burrow before the ACL. He looked really good. But even before those, who was it? Andrew Luck? Like, there have been rookies who've come in and looked good or performed better earlier. Like Deshaun Watson was another one. We didn't see anything from Patrick Mahomes his rookie year. He's sad as hell. He only played in week 17 that year, and he had a really good game. But it's like, so people who think there's just this savior rookie, we're going to be in the same exact cycle again. So unless Justin really shows you that he's not the guy, you have to ride this out for another year or 2 after this. Yeah. And let him play out his rookie deal, because what are we going to do? We're going to have another rookie who's new to the NFL, who's new to the speed of the game, who doesn't have NFL reps, who's new to this system. Like, why would we do this to ourselves again in another year when we can have continuity in year 2 with a really talented quarterback?
And I don't know if people just aren't paying attention to college football when they're saying this, but it's not a real lock that Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are going to come into the NFL and just dominate right away, right? These prospects, they haven't exactly been lighting the world on fire. They've been very good, but Bryce Young just lost in Tennessee and in a game he shouldn't have lost. Like, there's going to be things change, right, all the time. And I mean, realistically, Frank, what we talked about this last week, or at least it was in the post-game show. What quarterback makes this team that much better right now? Patrick Mahomes, maybe. I mean, not even maybe. He definitely makes the team better, right? Because he's able to do things that Justin Fields isn't, right? At least right now. But I mean, like, you think about it, like, Jalen Hurts gonna make this team. Lamar Jackson, he's had a rough few weeks, like Matt Ryan, no. Even Tom Brady would suck behind this offense.
I mean, look at two of the guys. Look at two of the guys who you would probably say like the ceiling of Justin Fields. You can see him being that if he progresses the right way, and Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, two mobile, get out of the pocket, extend the time before you throw the ball. Like that's who Justin Fields is, and they're struggling big time this year.
Yeah, and I saw something mentioned, and it kind of bothered me, where it was like someone was like talking about how Justin Fields almost seems like he needs everything to be perfect for him to succeed, and the great ones don't need that. And I call bullshit on that, because something that just does not get talked about enough is, yes, Aaron Rodgers ascended into obviously one of the greatest players of all time. But let's not pretend like he didn't have incredible receivers along the way, with Donald Driver, with Greg Jennings, Jordy Nelson, Davante Adams, obviously.
Randall Cobb, another one.
Randall Cobb. You look at him right now. What is he doing that's special? Nothing, because he doesn't have any weapons to throw to. Tua Tagovailoa was not very good until, he got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Joe Burrow got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and not for nothing, Tyler Boyd is he's a very Tyler Boyd would probably be wide receiver 1, maybe 2 on this Bears team right now.
He would be wide receiver 2 on most teams. Tyler Boyd is a very good player.
He is, and you look at what the Bears have to offer. Justin Fields doesn't have a type of receiver. And I know, and I know we're probably going to catch shit for this, because in the offseason, it is something that you and I talked about, where you don't need a number one receiver like a Stephon Diggs or an A.J. Brown to develop. And I think that's what we're seeing. I think Justin Fields is developing as a quarterback, but stats-wise, decision-making wise, it's hard to judge him when he has nobody competent to throw the ball to. And it's so weird that Bears fans just seem to be just so against having a good quarterback, because that would be too enjoyable, to the point where it's like, Justin can't do anything, or it has to fall on the quarterback, because look at what Justin Herbert has done. Nothing. Other than stats, what has Justin Herbert done in the NFL? Really? What is... I'm serious. You look at the younger guys, Josh Allen to a certain extent as well. Granted, they're one of the best teams in football, but he
put it together like in year 3, year 4, when it was like, holy shit, this guy might be the best quarterback in the NFL. And like
he got a complimentary receiver, and he got a lot of good receivers as well.
Yeah, well, and I think that's the only angle that we come from, because I felt to a lesser extent, we felt this way about Mitch. Like, again, lesser extent. But it's like there was nothing in year 2 or 3 where it's like, all right, it's totally time to just dump him. Play out the rookie contract. See if these guys can figure it out. Continue to build around them, because then worst case scenario, look at the Jets. Zach Wilson still hasn't looked good, but they're winning. But if he winds up not being the guy in year 3 or 4, and you get rid of him, you have a fucking surrounding cast for whatever quarterback, whether it's a rookie or whether it's a veteran that comes in, that is going to be elite, or maybe shoot a little too high. It's going to be very good. So that's what you do now. You have a rookie quarterback, or a quarterback under a rookie deal. You continue to build around it. This year, weapons wise, is probably a wash. The only thing I think we could add is DJ Moore, or even potentially like Jerry Jeudy if things are going really south in Denver. Or I would love Courtland Sutton if he's but he doesn't seem like the
Well, they just paid him too. I don't think.
And they just pay. Well, yeah, but he also doesn't seem like the type to. He's not like a diva type where like, get me out of here. He seems very team friendly. But the moves this year are going to be a wash. You're going to see some practice squad guys get pulled up. You're going to see just things like that shuffling around, people getting more reps than the other, and hopefully Byron Pringle can be healthy and he can show you something. But again, just like me and you have said, it's about the eye test this year. And, I'm sort of thinking of things that I want to see for the rest of this year. And I think it's sort of expounding on what I want to happen with Justin putting together a full game. sometimes I do want him to take the easy throw. I get he's explosive and he wants to make the play. And again, we've had this talk. I would rather my quarterback be that and you have to reel him in a little bit versus be a check down quarterback and you have to fucking beg for him to be aggressive. So we're sort of in that phase where, like, Justin, it's 4th and 3. There's a crossing pattern right in front of you. Just take it. Like, to take what the defense is giving you sometimes. But again, we saw that with Josh Allen. We saw that with Jalen Hurts. We saw that with Deshaun Watson. Whenever everyone, after they traded DeAndre Hopkins, was like, well, that's it. Because he was the guy that made up for all that holding the ball and all that scrambling and doing. And just, fuck it, Nuke got to be down there somewhere. Like, no, like, it takes years to really get the speed of the game and, like, understand things at a nuanced level that me and you obviously would never understand. But it's like you have to give these guys these years to develop and get the reps. That way you just know by the end of it, he either is the guy or he's not the guy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think the development issue, I think, can be spread around to literally every single young player right now, including Braxton Jones, who people are just ready to fucking send to the ether for some strange reason. He's a rookie left tackle, guys. Like, he's going to be developing. And I think that's a good opportunity for Luke Getsy to learn that, he needs help over there. It's all about the tape. It's about seeing what is the best offensive line. I would like to see Alex Leatherwood at some point, whether that's at right tackle, right guard, left guard even. I know he hasn't really played left guard, but I want to see something from him, because, I mean, the answer for people was just to move Larry Borom to left tackle because he looked good at times last year. That's insane to me. That's absolutely insane to me to think that Larry Borom, who's kind of struggled at right tackle, would just perfectly slide in at left tackle and be better than what. It doesn't make sense to me, Frank.
But Jack, even the basis of it, though, why are people acting like Braxton Jones is having a bad year? He's been probably the second best lineman outside of maybe third, because Cody Whitehair's had a really good year before his injury, but and Tevin Jenkins, he had one bad game.
Yeah.
What other? I mean, he went from week one. Granted, it was in the rain, but it is what it is. He dominated Bosa. Like, he looked really good against the best pass rusher in football, or one of them anyway.
It's all about expectations, man. Does everybody need to be an all-pro player for you to be like, okay, this team might have some good pieces?
And that's sort of what I hearken to, or go back to with the criticism of Justin Fields of, we missed that throw, sure. But the all-time greats have missed throws. I want him to make up for it, and he did. Like, the thing of this last game, he missed the throw to Ryan Griffin. It was an awful arm angle to get it to Cole Kmet. He made 2 straight game-winning throws at the end of the game. He made another 4th and 15 conversion that was dropped. Like, he made up for those bad throws. That's what you ask of your quarterbacks. That's what you ask of your players. And you know what? A guy who we haven't talked about, and I think this is our fault, because we were heavily critical of Kyler Gordon. These last 2 games, he's looked fucking good. And if we're going to be down on guys, we have to give them their props when they, when they've looked good. And these last 2 games, someone made a really good point. And I think it was a tweet that I saw, and I'm sorry I can't credit you because it was so long ago now. He has a pretty similar career arc to Kyle Fuller, where his coverage in his first year was not very good, but he was a really good tackler, to a point where people were like, should we put him at free safety? Should we put him at strong? Like, is he just not a corner? And you see him make these open field tackles, and you're like, dude, just be like above average, in coverage, and you're going to be a really good corner because you can tackle people. And I think we're seeing the progress in coverage too, but like, he's another one where it's like, yeah, he's a bum. I still will not take back what I said. I would have preferred Pickens and Pierce in the second over Brisker, and even though they flashed, Brisker and Gordon have flashed, but I would prefer the offense to have more weapons than the defense at this point in the rebuild. But it is what it is. We have the players who we have. And again, he's another one that took heavy criticism, but now all of a sudden people on Twitter
they're in love with him,
highlighting him. They're not, they're not showing the good things that he's doing now. And it's sort of it's like the flip. It reminded me, because it's the flip with Braxton Jones. Holy shit. Ryan Poles may just have to be executive of the year just based off of a starting left tackle in the 5th round. Look what he's doing in 4 weeks. And he has 1 bad game. And it's like, well, let's put Borom at left tackle. Braxton Jones is probably on the bubble heading in the next year. What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, yeah, it was hard to see. Alec Pierce. Well, for me, it wasn't as hard, but it was hard to see as a Bears fan, Alec Pierce.
And I
catching
liked
that
him a
game-winning
lot.
touchdown.
When we did that wide receiver rankings, I liked Alec Pierce. Pierce and Pickens were two of my favorite wide receiver prospects going into this draft.
He turned that one corner into burnt toast. And just
he looks so fucking good, dude.
I know it's literally never going to happen, but if the Jets want to continue to run the ball as much as they do with Zach Wilson and basically waste their 10th overall pick in Garrett Wilson, I'll take him. We'll take him in Chicago.
No, you know what though? I think we're starting to see a sort of a trend around the league where, and we remember when we had Avram on, we asked what he thought about Darnell Mooney dynasty wise, because even if he was a wide receiver 1 this year, he puts up 1,200 yards. We're going to build the wide receiver room out next year. We know that, or at least we fucking hope we are. Think about Elijah Moore.
Yeah.
He's not getting those same looks. If wide receivers get frustrated, they have a little bit of diva in them. He could be a guy that gets really frustrated as this year goes on. And he showed us last year, maybe he's not a 1, but he's fucking close to it, at least talent-wise.
I'll be curious to see what the Bears do to maybe add to the room, down the road. Like, Hunter Renfrow hasn't exactly had, a great follow-up year in with the Raiders. That would be a nice slot piece. Terrace Marshall Jr., who you just feel like you saw so many good things from him in the in that rookie preseason, where it's like it just doesn't make sense why they're not using him. Like, you're going to be looking for those types of guys to give chances to.
But you know what though, Jack? With that said, I want to give a guy like that a chance, and even like this fits for Dante Pettis too, as the wide receiver 4. You know what I mean? Like
not trying to fit him in as the wide receiver 2.
Yeah.
No. Like I'm talking about specifically this year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If they're able to add to maybe, just some people who may just be in bad situations, like who was the Jets receiver? Denzel Mims, who talked about how much he didn't want to be in New York with the Jets. He was a former 2nd-round pick. He had a good-ish preseason and then just hasn't been, he just doesn't play. It's that type of stuff you kind of keep an eye on. I'll be curious to see if the Bears add anything, if at all. They just may not, depending on what's available. But
or depending on if our boy N'Keal Harry can prove that 1st-round talent, and he just becomes the wide receiver 1 we didn't know we had. 6'4", 235.
I'm gonna have a hot take.
13-inch cock.
That won't happen. Oh yeah. Well, that might be. That might be a case, but it might not make him a good receiver. It might slow him down, not as aerodynamic.
That's probably what it's been. He can't get separation because that thing just holds him back.
That would be the most incredible statement ever. If someone, why do you think you've had such a slow start to your NFL career? Well, listen, my shoe size is 14. All right, that's all I'm saying. Can't be as fast out there as some of those other guys. Frank, let's we'll talk about the Bears again in a little bit here. Let's go ahead and get to our Week 7 picks. And luckily for us, like I said, the Bears are Monday Night Football, so they'll be the last team we talk about anyways. So we can start with Thursday Night Football, a game that I just hope is a little bit more entertaining than the last couple of Thursday night games. Should be somewhat scoring-ish, but I have a feeling the Saints are involved, the Cardinals are involved. This could just end up being a super weird game. DeAndre Hopkins is eligible to return. I don't think he'll play this week, in my opinion. I think they'll probably wait until a normal week for him to play, though they need him now with Hollywood Brown having that injury, that unfortunate injury, and it's unfortunate to my dynasty team, so I hate it even more. But Frank, I'm going with the Cardinals in this game. They're I think like a 1.5 point favorite at home. I just don't know what to make of the Saints. I have no idea what's going on in New Orleans. I'm going Arizona, but I don't feel super good about it.
I'm going with the Saints. The Saints are, and I think this is going to be an ugly Thursday game like they all have been. The Saints are like the Kirby of the NFL. They just play exactly how the other team plays. So like if it's going to be high scoring like it was against the Bengals, they'll firefight with you. But if they're playing a team that's going to be discombobulated like the Cardinals, they may set the record, both teams, for the most amount of penalties this game because they just like play like
Yeah.
up or down to their competition. But I think this. I mean, I still like the Saints defense a lot. And it's they still have this weird ability to be explosive, even though their weapons really, especially with Michael Thomas out, like Kamara's looked pretty solid. Dalton had an okay game. Taysom Hill just all of a sudden decides to, be the creative player again that he was. And I think they're going to win like an ugly, like 17-14 type of game.
All right. Cleveland at Baltimore. I'm going Baltimore, but Lamar's got to show me something, man. He started off super hot this season and was like a clear favorite for MVP candidate. But I mean, I get he doesn't have any receivers to throw to with Rashad Bateman being hurt. But dude, you have Mark Andrews, like, and that offensive line played really, really bad. But you gotta. This is a game they have to win because Cleveland has looked like shit the last couple weeks. So I'm gonna go with the Ravens.
I'm going with the Ravens as well. There's some, and I know you've made this point before too. Sometimes you just have to minimize it to the quarterback. And I mean, Jacoby Brissett, you can't lose if you're Lamar Jackson. You can't lose to Jacoby. Sorry, going Ravens.
Especially in the contract year, you can't be losing that game. Tampa Bay at Carolina. Carolina, Frank, did not have the resurgence that I for some reason everybody just assumed they would with PJ Walker at quarterback. I don't know who the fuck was thinking that was going to happen, but Tampa Bay had struggled in Pittsburgh. That being said, though, I'm gonna go Buccaneers.
I'm going Bucks as well. I can't imagine me picking the Panthers against anybody this year.
It's going to be tough. But hey, man, they're a quarterback away from being something.
Yeah.
Shout out. It's literally any team. It's literally any team.
Put Josh Allen on this team.
We're quarterback away. Allen, if we had Patrick Mahomes, we'd be a lot better.
Yeah, no shit.
Atlanta at Cincinnati. Man, Atlanta, fun. They're just a fun team, and I'm genuinely so. Why can't the Bears do that, man? Like, why can't the Bears? They don't have Drake London or Kyle Pitts, but come on, man. Like, why is Marcus Mariota able to drop 30 points left and right, but the Bears just can't do it? I don't get it. That being said, I'm going Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'm going Cincy as well. Joey Burrow is starting to really heat up. He's looked good these last 2 weeks. Yeah. He looks like I got him in fantasy in a few different leagues, and he looks like my fantasy quarterback, Jack.
He does.
I think he's going to light the Falcons up.
All right. Detroit at Dallas. Dallas looking not the best last week, but they are still better than Detroit. I'm going to go Dallas, especially if Dak plays.
I'm going with Dallas as well. And I found the weird criticism of Cooper Rush after last week like unfounded. Like, he played as well as you can ask of a backup coming in having to start a handful of games. That's literally what you want from your backup, is to keep you afloat. And he did more than keep them afloat. He looked really good in some of those games. And then they play one of the best teams in the NFC, if not the best right now. And everyone's like, oh, can't fucking wait. And like, granted, you should be happy that Dak will be back, but like, to act like he just did nothing for you. Fans are just so fickle, dude.
You saw, how many times did you see, well, we should just trade Dak because we got Cooper Rush? How many times?
Yeah, and then the very next week, it's all, well, thank goodness Dak is back because this guy's just not it. No shit, he's your backup, dude.
It's awesome.
Yeah, but I'm going Dallas as well. I'm going to be really curious, Jack, if Detroit only winds up with like 4 or 5 wins, do they give this regime another shot at it? Because it's like, I still feel, outside of the New England game, because that was just an awful game for them, they have like at least formed an offensive identity. Their defense is still really bad. Their defense is awful. But offensively, they're really doing something. So this may be, and Lions fans aren't going to want to hear it because I think they did expect to win like 7, 8, 9 games. But this may be the best thing here. You win 2 games, 3 games. You have so many offensive weapons, and you get one of these rookie quarterbacks to slot in with really good talent around them. That could be a really good situation for a young quarterback.
Yeah, you, as you very well know, I never bought into the Lions hype. But I mean, Frank, I just don't know, because here's the thing. They're even with Jared Goff, they for a couple of weeks they had like the number one offense, right? So it's not
Through like
necessarily
4 weeks, I think.
So to me, it's not necessarily as simple as draft a rookie quarterback, plug him in, this team becomes an instant playoff contender. I just think their defense, they need to add, obviously, to their defense. I just don't know if Dan Campbell is a long-term solution as head coach. He seems like one of those guys who's just the interim coach, like he'd be like a perfect relief coach. Like, for example, Chuck Pagano in Indianapolis gets fired in his third season. They're, 4-8 or something like that, right? And they, Dan Campbell is right there waiting in the wings to come in, and he takes the team, they end up finishing 9-8 or something like that. Like, that's what I would expect. Like, that's Dan Campbell's thing. Him as a overall establisher of culture, calling plays, making those decisions. I don't know if he's the guy for the future. I just don't. But I agree, there is something there offensively. So it's like, what changes can you make moving forward if you want those consistencies to stay? I think they'll keep him. I think they keep Dan Campbell no matter what. I do.
I think so too, because I do think he's more than what you described, but he could prove to not be. But that's still important for a culture too. We've talked about this, like the sort of the Ricky Renteria effect before we got Joe Madden here in Chicago. Like,
but you have to start winning for it to work, though. You have to.
100%. And that's why I think next year will be that year of like, all right, dude, like, we know what we have offensively. You have to improve defensively. You got to start winning games.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's bought himself at least another year.
But
I'd be surprised.
If they want to totally rebuild again, Amon-Ra St. Brown has a spot on the Chicago Bears.
Nah, he'll be terrible once Jameson Williams comes back. Don't you worry, Frankie.
That's the whole point. Get him disgruntled. Get him to want out of there.
Just get him out. The Giants at Jacksonville. This could end up being an interesting game, Frank, but each week goes by, Frank. The Giants just keep winning. It hurts a little more each time they win. It does. I mean, you watch that team, and granted, the Bears don't have Kayvon Thibodeau, but goddamn, do they have, like, I think the Bears might have missed this one, Frank.
But again, it's so hard to say, though, because I don't think he wanted to come here. Brian Daboll, the immediate link.
You're right.
Was to New York. But again, from our standpoint, he was our number one pick. I wanted George McCaskey to fly out there with fucking hookers and strippers and cocaine and make him come to Chicago.
I mean, Danny Dimes is thrown for 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks. Like, he's only fumbled twice. Like, that's Daniel Jones only fumbling twice. But
you know what though, impressive. Jack? And this is going to be very unfair, because if you're a Giants fan, you should be really excited for what's happening right now. Yeah. But again, this is why stats don't mean as much. Watch the games. And I'm not saying to you. I know you watch. To those who are like, man, Danny may be. No, he is still not a very good quarterback.
Oh, no. Let's make it clear. Daniel Jones is not a very good quarterback. However, Brian Daboll has done enough with Daniel Jones to win to win 5 games.
I agree.
That's really, and you look at the receiver, they have worse receivers than the Bears do.
I know, with all the injuries that they have, they look.
And Kenny Golladay is just, I never liked that signing in the first place, but goddamn, I did not think it would be that bad. I really didn't. It's been awful. Huge miss.
But the point that I'm making is that they're winning, and this is to Brian Daboll's credit. It's not to take anything away. He's done a phenomenal job, but they're winning purely based on like grit and some of the scheme that wears off eventually.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to know if they again, but just like you said, Wan'Dale Robinson came back. He looked really fucking good last week. Kadarius Toney should be back soon. They're going to get their talent positions back. Maybe Danny Dimes does look better with better surrounding cast, but if not, and the defenses start catching up to that scheme and the limitations on that offense, do these wins kind of shoot you in the foot a little bit to get a different quarterback,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's something that they'll kind of have to keep an eye on. I just, it's been impressive. And I guess we should probably talk about the picks we're making. I'm going Giants. And on the road. That being said, Trevor Lawrence had a very, very good bounce back game against the Colts. Still not winning, and I'm sure that's frustrating for Jacksonville fans. But you almost kind of what you were literally just saying, Frank. You almost sort of want that. It's almost what you and I were talking about last year with the Steelers game and the 49ers game with Justin Fields, where it's like, show us that you're good and let the defense fucking blow it at the end. That's what happened. That's what Trevor Lawrence has done in some of these games. People are just so fast. Granted, I never bought the whole hype. The Andrew Luck. You and I talked about it. He was not our quarterback, or he was our quarterback one, but arguably Justin Fields was pretty close to him. But all of the draft experts, quote unquote, were all, it's the next Andrew Luck, it's the next Peyton Manning, blah 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 blah. Didn't really think that, but I think he's been really good pretty good in his first season in a completely new offense. With a competent coaching staff. But I don't think you and I ever really thought Doug Peterson would have come into Chicago and taken this team to the next step. Like, that's just not. I don't think that's what's going on. But I do think Jacksonville has made some strides.
I agree. No, and I'm actually picking Jacksonville. I think that's my upset of the week.
Ooh,
yeah,
okay.
I had to pick. I feel like the games were a little too easy to pick, so I had to hone in on a couple that could be upsets, and this is a potential one because not for nothing. The Jaguars are feisty. They just like you said, they've made progress. Lawrence, he's had a couple of bad games this year, but he's still young. It is what it is. Like, that's going to happen. But they still, I mean, ETN looks really fucking good. They have some solid talent on that offense.
They finally figured out that it's time for ETN to take over from James. And I love James Robinson. He'll always hold a special place in my heart, not only going to Illinois State, but also that was the first dynasty player that I ever was like, let's see what this guy's got. And you just watch him soar through the rankings and you trade him off real quick because you're like, this will never last. And 3 years later, he's still a really fucking good player. But no, they finally figured out, let's get the ball in ETN's hand and we'll go from there. So that I'm not mad about that. I actually kind of struggled a little bit, but I want to keep rolling with the Dable magic right now with the Giants. It's a fun story.
I'm not mad at it.
Green Bay at Washington. Dude, I'm telling you, man, Green Bay is just catching teams at the right time. And I went with the upset last week, picked the Jets to win, felt very, very accomplished this week. But Washington with Taylor Heineke, Washington's just not very good either. I'm going to go quarterback based and Aaron Rodgers, though. Maybe I shouldn't because he's been pretty bad fucking this year, too.
He has been, but the Green Bay's defense has been quietly pretty fucking good. I think they're a better defense than what the Bears have right now because they actually have a pass rush. And they couldn't. I mean, Washington couldn't do a damn thing against us offensively. Like, they were just so bad. So I'm expecting Green Bay to win this game. Well, whether it's because Rodgers bounces back or it's just one of those team victories that looks ugly and you're like, here goes fucking Green Bay stacking these stupid wins before they gel. Yeah, it's going to be something like that. They're the better team.
Yeah, I don't really think it's all that close, honestly.
Yeah.
Indianapolis at Tennessee, Frank. Indy proving me right last week. I decided to roll with them. I'm doing it again. Fuck it. Fuck Tennessee. I don't know what it is, Frank. It's just like every time I look at Tennessee, I just can't pick them. I can't do it. No matter, and when I do, they fucking lose. I don't know. I'm going with the Colts. Tennessee's coming off the bye. Indy's coming off their best offensive game. Jonathan Taylor should be ready to go, I'd imagine. But listen, talked about it. Demaryius Thomas, Eric Decker, 2.0 in Indianapolis right now. With Michael Pittman, who had 13 catches for 130 yards, and then Alec Pierce just cooking guys on touchdown. They may have a real good duo, Frank. And Matt Ryan by far played his best game. They seem to have figured out the left tackle spot now. I'm going Indianapolis. I just don't trust Tennessee.
Listen, Indy has been hot and cold. Okay. This is still Tennessee's division. Indy's got to prove it to me that they can beat Tennessee. I'm picking Tennessee, but Indy is obviously a live dog for me. But Tennessee just seems to find ways to beat these guys every fucking year.
I'm not going to disagree.
Even though I said that last week against Jacksonville, that was a different sort of. That was like Indy, you're supposed to win this fucking game, but it seems like you never do.
Right.
Titans are usually like 50-50, but the Titans just somehow pull it out every year when they play. I'm going Titans.
Yeah, I'm not gonna blame you for that. Houston at the Raiders. Come on, man. Raiders gotta get this one. They have to. This is literally their season right here. They're coming off the bye. I think this is a game. Well, Houston is too, I suppose. But Josh Jacobs, man, has looked really fucking good the last couple weeks. So
he has. He's running hard.
They may have found something in that. I'm going Raiders.
Same. I'm going. I mean, they're the better team. They're the better team through and through. And they've been better than some of the people that they've lost to. Like, it has to be so annoying to them.
Yeah.
So a 1 point loss to Kansas City, 2 point loss to Tennessee, 6 to Arizona. All of these have been so, I mean, they are literally.
And they've been losing like assholes too. Like the way that they're losing, it's just like, come on.
And that's what I mean. Like they're a, good luck away from being undefeated at this point. It's insane. I don't think any team has experienced more bad luck.
The Jets at Denver. Russell Wilson obviously hurt with a very real injury, Frank, and he's feeling very real pain.
Yep.
Yeah, very real. Such a why, man? People go to the end of the earth to defend this guy for some strange reason. It's so weird to me. I'm going with the Jets. They just look like such the better team right now. Granted, like you said in the beginning, Zach Wilson not exactly playing his best football, but Breece Hall, man, superstar all the way.
Looks good.
But yeah, I'm going Jets.
I'm going Jets as well. And you know what? The one thing that people were very critical of Robert Saleh, maybe he wasn't even that good a defensive coordinator. He inherited things in San Francisco. That defense looks fucking good to me. Sauce Gardner is a goddamn player. This dude, I mean, you watch some of his tape. I'm not doing like the all 22 stuff like I do with the Bears, but you see some of these clips on Twitter. He's running routes for these guys. He's stride for stride with people's wide receiver ones as a rookie. This dude's a rookie.
Yeah.
He looks damn good.
He's got to be one of the very few corner rookies that super hyped up. Because remember in the draft, I mean, it's all anyone would talk about is Sauce Gardner. And like, even like you think about like guys like Patrick Surtain in Denver, you think about guys like J.C. Horn. But what I'm saying is in their rookie year, they weren't, J.C. Horn, people were like, did they make a mistake not drafting Justin Fields? Like, but then, year 2, they come around, they're good. And like you said, Sauce Gardner has been fucking good so far. Yeah. It's pretty wild, man. Because corner is it's a hard position to transition to because especially if you're like a top pick, you're going up against the best of the best. So yeah, they may have got one there. Kansas City at San Francisco. Buffalo. Good for them. Good for them getting that win. However, I don't think San Francisco's gonna. Man, San Francisco, what the fuck? I know they were missing 9 starters on their defense, but you can't let Marcus Mariota beat you. You can't do that. You just can't. That was bad. But I'm going Kansas City.
I'm going with the Chiefs as well. I mean, this is going to be a big bounce back. They're going for 30 plus this game.
I'm playing Juju. I'm playing.
As you should. He's looked solid.
I have to. Seattle at the Chargers. I'm going to go Chargers. And I know the whole Geno Smith thing has been a fun story for people. It's, good for Geno, but this is probably the best defense that he'll play all year. So I'm going to go Chargers. I'm
going Chargers as well, but dude, the Seahawks have consistently been one of the more fun teams to watch. I think this has all the makings of a really fun game. Geno is a fucking good quarterback, dude. Is he someone maybe you want long-term? Who knows? But some of these throws, like he wasn't making these throws 5 years ago with the Jets. He wasn't or whenever it was 7 years ago. The time that he sat, he's clearly worked on his game. He looks pretty fucking good. And obviously Justin Herbert is Justin Herbert. So we may have a little quarterback duel this game, but I'm going Chargers as well.
And good for yeah, Ken Walker. I'm not going to apologize necessarily because I still think Brees was by far the number one
Yeah,
running
I mean,
back.
come on.
But man, this group of running backs, this group of rookie running backs has been pretty good so far.
I
Damian
mean, but aren't
Pierce.
aren't
I
they
know.
always though? They're running backs.
About
Like,
20, what was it, 2013 or something when Carlos Hyde was like the first pick and that whole
oh,
running back
I'm
club.
I'm speaking more like probably from like 2016, 2017
Yeah.
on. If you draft a running back, I mean, even like Rashad Penny, who everyone wrote off, he finally got healthy and he was blowing up the league before he just got hurt again. Like, all these guys are the same. They're all the same player.
They're all the same player to Frank. Frank is he doesn't see running backs. He just sees a guy standing there. What was that Sunday? Oh man, Sunday night. That's yuck. Sunday night football. Clearly they were going for the old AFC rivalry in the past with Pittsburgh and Miami, but man, that is a brutal Sunday night game. That is really bad. Hopefully Tua plays, but fuck, man. Hopefully Kenny Pickett plays because we maybe see it. All right, hold on.
Mitch versus Tua. Wait a minute.
Hold on. We got to talk about Mitch for a second. That was some of the most incredible football I've ever seen Mitch Trubisky play last week. And I say that with no hyperbole. He was balling.
He looked good.
Making back shoulder fades, throwing like the seam. Like he was just
But
on
Jack,
fire.
if you remember the time, like, and that was when we sort of had to separate what we disliked about Mitch as the quarterback and what we disliked about Matt Nagy as the play caller and like quarterback developer. The times that Mitch looked good in Chicago, it was like the 2-minute drill. He didn't have to think so much. Just go out and play ball. Because he is naturally talented. Is he naturally elite? No, I don't think he has like Patrick Mahomes type of physical talent, but he has NFL talent. Like, it's clearly there. And that's sort of why I like him in the backup role. If he has to start 4 or 5 games, just play fuck it football.
Yeah.
That's when he could be at his best. But I don't think he has the talent to sustain that for full seasons. And that's what sort of makes him a higher end backup quarterback to me. But yeah, I mean, that was one of those times where you come in second, third quarter, just make something happen, and you can do that. But it's when you have to game plan with him and he sort of gets in his own head and he can't really read defenses all that well. That's when you start to have a lot of issues with Mitch. But to your original point, I agree those are some of the better throws he's made in his career. Those back shoulders to Chase Claypool. He made another really good throw to was it Deontay that made a really good catch?
I think it was all
on the sideline. Yeah, I mean, they look really, really good.
Group. Yeah, it's such a good group, and by far. Now that's a guy I would like the Bears to maybe think about in terms of Chase Claypool.
Mitch?
Like, no,
Oh.
God. Yeah, get this bum Justin Fields out of here. Give the job to Mitch, baby. But no, like Chase Claypool would be a nice little addition to the Bears if the Steelers are looking to maybe blow some things up a little bit.
I mean, maybe not even blow up, Jack. I feel like they draft a 2nd or 3rd round receiver every fucking year that winds up being really good. They may just not have room for him in another year.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But it's unfortunate because Pickett did look good. I kind of put an asterisk to this, Frank, but I think I'm going to say it regardless. I'm going Miami, especially if Tua is able to play and he looks like Tua again. They're kind of in a weird situation, but I think Miami at home is the better team. I think that's what I'm going to go with for now.
And you know what? It's not even an asterisk for me. I'm going whether it's Teddy B or Tua. The Steelers do not have a good defense, dude. They're just not I don't know how they're going to contain.
They miss TJ Watt for sure.
They definitely miss TJ Watt, but their secondary is bad. What are you going to do with Tyreek Hill? And I feel like everyone talks about best receiver in the league. He has to be in that conversation, dude. What he's doing there is insane. I think people that conversation with him sort of fell off because it's cool. He's with Patrick Mahomes. He's doing it with, I mean, what is it, Mitch Thompson or whatever the fuck his name is out there? Like, he is quarterback proof. He's one of the few guys in the league that I truly think is quarterback proof.
And it's one of those rare times where and as our podcast, we find a great deal of enjoyment out of when these types of things happen, where both things are true at the same time. And I know I've mentioned this before, but remember the conversation was Tyreek Hill good because of Patrick Mahomes, or was Patrick Mahomes good because of Tyreek Hill? looks like Patrick Mahomes was good and Tyreek Hill was good as well, and that's why they were so good together.
Yep.
It's as simple as that. So,
yep.
Miami's Jalen Waddle is incredible, but goddamn, if I have to see Mike Gesicki score and do the gritty on Sunday Night Football, I don't know if I can take it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to.
It's been bad.
That.
He deserves to be penalized for that.
If he does it one more time, it's like the Key and Peele sketch where he's doing the pumps, like flag him for it. That might need to happen. But brutal Sunday night game. But honestly, the slate this week isn't all that good. I really don't know who you'd flex into that outside of Kansas City and San Francisco.
When do they start flexing though? Do they start flexing week 8 or 9? That's when it becomes a thing, right?
I think so. Yeah. It's get Denver off my screen on prime time. It needs to be done.
And you know what? Listen, I think if there's an NFL consultant that just happens to come, schedule maker that comes across this podcast randomly, we're a small podcast, but it could happen. Before the next season, just you let us tell you whether or not to put the Bears on primetime. We could have told you preseason. We didn't need any primetime games this year. I promise you, especially against the Packers. Let those be at noon. Let both of those next year be at noon. We're okay with that. Throw some razzle dazzle and get us at 3:05 even. The second.
Yeah, make us the America's game of the week, right? Put who is that? Is that Romo and Nance? Is that Nance and Romo? They're those guys. Yeah, give us that. Give us that, because there's still other games. I'm still watching Red Zone at that point because I gotta know if Mike Evans is gonna catch that next touchdown. I can't be watching the fucking Bears game. I gotta know about other stuff. So start thinking about that, guys. Speaking of Chicago, oh boy, Chicago at New England. Why is this okay? Over under, Frank. 3.5 mentions of the 1985 Bears and the 1985 Super Bowl.
Holy shit! Probably like 9.5. Are we talking in game or including pregame? Because pregame it's probably going to be like 20.5.
They'll hit the over by far in the pregame for sure. But there will be mentions of Walter Payton, the Fridge, Jim McNabb. Like they're gonna talk about Mike Ditka. They might even have Mike Ditka on the fucking call because they got to talk about that 1985 Super Bowl when the Bears beat the Patriots. Because what the fuck else is the storyline for?
That's such a weird. I mean, I guess Mac Jones versus Justin Fields.
That's what they were hoping.
You squint, but
Mac Jones might not even play.
Mac Jones might not play, and he hasn't looked that great this year. Even when he did
Bailey
play.
Zappi has looked like the fucking stud.
Yeah, he's looked better than him so far this year. Granted that once Mac is healthy, you get him back in. He's a better quarterback. But Jack, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Forget the Monday night thing. This game scares me. Because Bill ruins young quarterbacks. I still think he is the reason that Sam Darnold completely flamed out. I think he took Sam Darnold. So granted, he had to play him twice a year. So maybe it's a little bit different. But he just knows how to fucking confuse young quarterbacks, dude. He makes them look so bad. And, one of the things that people have touched on that I think maybe we haven't as much, Justin's biggest in terms of like in between the ears where he needs to adjust is the post-snap reads. He's really good pre-snap. He diagnoses what he sees pre-snap, and if it stays the same, he's very decisive, and that's why he did really well against the Vikings because they didn't do much disguising. It's when you get to the disguising thing where that's when that internal clock is like, oh shit, I have to hold the ball a little bit longer, let things develop a little bit more because I'm not as sure of what I'm seeing, which again, is it a Justin Fields problem? Yes, but it's also like a 99.9% young quarterback problem. That's just what happens with young quarterbacks, except for Patrick Mahomes. He's the only person I've ever seen not have to deal with that. But that's what I'm scared of, dude. They disguise so well, and that defense is starting to look really fucking good. Like we're catching New England right now, I think, at a really bad time because this could be one of those like 23-3 type of Patriots wins. And I'm not going to lie to you, Jack. I know we've asked Luke Getsy to not do this, but it would not, in my opinion, be a bad thing if we ran the ball 35 times.
Yeah. I went Patriots. I did too. Patriots, by the way. Week 3, week 4, ask me this. This was not a tough competition. I would have picked the Bears, and it probably wouldn't be all that close because of how bad New England looked. But yeah, if Bailey Zappi plays, he's running their offense, whatever that offense seems to be. Ramondre Stevenson, by the way, looks pretty fucking good. Jacoby
Yes.
Myers also looks very good. The defense for New England is going to be a major problem. I don't know if this. I'm hoping to speak it into existence because last week I said that this should be Justin Fields' best game, and it ended up probably being his worst game of the year, all things considered. This may be Justin Fields' worst game, even worse than Thursday night. This is going to be a very, very good measuring stick for where this offense is. That being said, N'Keal Harry revenge game. He's going for 100 plus, six and 2 touchdowns.
It would be nice. I mean, we're basing what we're saying off of New England off the last couple of weeks. So because before that, the defense did not look very good. So maybe they just caught lightning in a bottle for a couple of weeks, and then after the game, we're like, oh shit, maybe they're not that good. And Justin had a really good game. That's still possible. Because the one thing, let's make no mistake, Bill throughout his career has struggled with very athletic quarterbacks. Their defense is more like seek and destroy, and not that bend but don't break. Let's let them make mistakes type of thing. And we've seen Josh Allen have really big games. We've seen Lamar Jackson have really big games. Athletic quarterbacks do really well against that defense for whatever reason. Maybe we can really utilize Justin's legs this game. I don't know. This is the first game that I'm looking at and I'm like, I'm scared of this game. And it's because of Bill. Like it's solely because of Bill, because even like their defensive talent, they're not like talent deprived by any means, but they're not like a star-studded cast. But that scheme just seems to be coming together, and they found their guys.
Yeah,
I wish this game was like 2 weeks ago. I'd feel much more comfortable with it.
They've played Tua, who they lost to. They've played Mitch Trubisky, who they beat. Lamar Jackson, who kicked the shit out of them for 37
That's what I'm saying. Like
points.
Athletic quarterbacks historically have given Bill problems.
Rodgers dropped 27 points on him. The Lions obviously got shut out, and that's just a Jared Goff thing. Jacoby Brissett scored 15 points, but that's Jacoby Brissett. It's kind of hard to tell. Justin Fields might be one of the more talented quarterbacks, not most complete talent, pure talent wise. Justin Fields might be one of the better quarterbacks they face. But again, I mean, all of those teams that I just mentioned have much better receiver groups. The Dolphins, the Steelers, the Lions. The Packers. Well, I guess I don't know. Allen Lazard and Darnell Mooney might be. Yeah, they might wash each other out. But so yeah, I'm going New England. I think Ramondre Stevenson is going to have a very good game. I think
he's going to have $175 and a couple of touchdowns. Start him in fantasy.
Yeah,
we still can't stop the run.
I thought they did better last week against Brian Robb. Granted, that's his first game, but you're right, Frank. I mean, the biggest problem isn't even necessarily the defensive line. It's and Justin Jones. Damn, man, like that was an incredible. Ryan Poles deserves all the credit in the world for pivoting to him and making that move, because that just has worked out awesome. The linebackers, I mean, once you bust through that defensive line, you're pretty much home free. Because those linebackers just are not very good right now.
To a point where it's sort of highlighted, this may be a silver lining. It's highlighted how much Eddie Jackson's bought in. He's been laying a little bit of lumber this year.
He had a very good hit.
He looks good at tackling this year.
Frank, what I want to see most from the defense is turnovers. They need to start getting back to creating turnovers. That's the whole hits principle. That's the whole thing about this defense. There needs to be some turnovers. Whether it's a strip sack, I don't think we've seen that this year. I don't know if we've seen a strip sack. Where the fuck is Robert Quinn? Someone put him on the milk carton.
But see, and that's what I was just gonna say though, Jack. Like I agree. I'd love for them to be more turnovers, but scaling it back a little, because that there's still some luck involved in turnovers. You can force a fumble and just not recover it, but we have to get a pass rush, dude. Get Muhammad out, start getting Gibson in, start getting Dominique Robinson in. Like, we need something to change because we're not getting any pressure. That's the first start of what I want to see for the defense. It's just, even if it's not sacks, get pressure. I mean, these guys are filing their taxes back there in the pocket. Like, but we are legitimately lucky that Carson Wentz is bad or he hurt his thumb, whatever you chalk it up to, because he had a lot of time back there and he was just missing throws.
Yeah, that was pretty surprising to see him just that off, because I've watched a lot of Carson Wentz, and it's pretty remarkable the decline that he's had in his career in terms of just accuracy things. It's pretty surprising. He almost reminds me more of Mitch than anyone else.
He's like a more frantic Mitch, though. Mitch, not for nothing, always played like almost to a fault where he didn't have a second gear. It was just always this
because he didn't want to turn the ball over. Carson don't care.
Carson is like a more frantic version of him. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, he doesn't give a fuck about turnovers. He's like, yeah, I'll turn the ball over. That's fine. I'll do that.
I told you, him and Jameis Winston are very similar. I think Carson maybe a little bit more athletic. He rolls out a little bit more, but just mindset-wise.
Matt Nagy is become in his locker, he's got a Saints hat in his locker right now, right? He's got that Saints hat because he's pulling for his boy Andy Dalton. He's like, yeah, you take that job over.
Oh, I thought you were saying he's in a campaign to get the job next year there.
He probably will.
There's no shot he's a head coach again, right? There's no way someone hires him.
I'm kind of curious to see what other coaches get the axe this year. I can't. This year has been kind of hard to tell in terms of certain teams that we thought would probably be better, but they're not necessarily in that. Like, for example, we were just talking about Dan Campbell. Like, it's not guaranteed that he gets the axe, but I think last year you kind of knew, like, even Arthur Smith, how do you fire Arthur Smith at this point? Like, he's doing it. He's putting up points, right? He's winning with Marcus fucking Mariota. Like, give him time to see what he's got in Ritter. But I mean, really, Frank, like, Cliff Kingsbury, I guess, is a guy who could be there. Mike Tomlin, I can't see Mike Tomlin getting fired
because they're still gonna win games. They're gonna find a fucking way.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe Mike McCarthy, if things end up going south with
he's
Dak
probably
back.
one you move on from. I mean, because there's a certain. Say it again.
Chico's gone.
He has to be, dude. Even because you talked about Brian Robinson, but I wanted to bring up. He has a weird thing. He's one of those old school, I hold a grudge for something type of coaches. Antonio Gibson is a better running back than Brian Robinson right now. He was gashing the Bears. And he's like, nah, you can come back out for it. You're here for a series. We're going to sit out for the rest of the quarter. What are you doing, dude? He reeled off an 8-yard run, 12-yard run, then a little catch that he got for 8. Like, why are you taking him out of it? But he's been doing this the last 2 years. And it's like, everyone wants to make fun of Antonio Gibson. He's a good fucking player, dude. Look at what they did when they had to play him. He looked great. Maybe not great. He looked good.
He's a good player.
I agree.
They just refuse to use him.
Yeah, Chico is a weird and not for nothing. He's an overrated coach. He's still hanging on that one lost season with Cam Newton. What else has he done? He was a very good defensive coordinator for the Bears. I loved it. I hated that we let him go. I would have loved for him to assume the head coaching position with us at that time, but without hindsight being a thing. But he's one of the more overrated coaches because people talk about him like, yeah, he's going to get things right. What situation has he ever gotten right? He's consistently around 500. He's about as average as it gets, I think.
Yeah. He's kind of like John Fox. He's kind of like John Fox, except John Fox went to 2 Super Bowls instead of one.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you look at, I would have thought Saleh would be gone, but he's turning it around. He's turning it around. Pete Carroll. I mean, as much as I thought he was good as gone.
Eventually, age is going to have to be something with Pete, right?
You'd think so, but I don't know what's going on up there. Lovey, I don't think they'll fire. I didn't think.
They gave him like a 5-year deal.
Yeah. I think Lovey's probably going to stick around, but I don't really think there's going to be. Maybe Frank Reich. I texted one of my friends on Sunday, and I said, if the Colts lose this game, Frank Reich and Chris Ballard are gone. They should be as good as gone.
I do feel like there's always a surprise firing, and maybe that surprise is Tomlin, but the Steelers just don't operate that way.
No.
Maybe.
I don't know. I just don't know how you.
Maybe the surprise, Jack. Maybe the surprise is Kyle Shanahan.
It's tough because how much can you really glean from him without Trey Lance, right? Like, I mean, granted, Trey Lance did not, but we didn't see anything from Trey Lance before he got hurt.
But
we saw him in a fucking rain in a monsoon.
Yeah.
That was about it.
I feel like, granted, they've been to a Super Bowl, they've been to an NFC championship, so he's had success, but I feel like the last few, it's been this. Well, if Jimmy can just be average, like they may just want to blow the whole thing up, and that would include, unless he's a Mike Tomlin type where to get you through a rebuild, you build again and go. That could be a thing too. But I'm just sort of thinking about who would be a surprise firing. I think at this point, I don't even know if that would be a surprise, dude. He looks so in over his head. Yeah. He looks so in over his head.
Here's the surprise, but I don't think will happen. But it's possible based off of the last couple of years. Brandon Staley.
As soon as you said it, that was who came to my head. Yeah, potentially. But I mean, they're 4-2. They're treading water right now. If they can catch heat, maybe not. But I agree, he could be. He definitely could be.
It's just, granted, injuries have hit that team pretty hard, but I mean, obviously Carolina has an opening. Tampa Bay, I'll be curious to see what they do with Todd Bowles, because that team just doesn't look better. Like they don't look better with Todd Bowles than they did with Bruce Arians, which is interesting.
Jack, you know who we didn't touch on? I think Stefanski might be out, unless if they can stay around 500 and Deshaun comes in and does, Stefanski might be gone.
Right. Yeah, Cleveland. I totally just forgot about them. Yes, I mean, God, what a gross organization. Yeah. I used to appreciate the Browns for them always being losers, and you're just it'd be nice to see them win. Fuck them. I hate that.
Yeah, I know. The pendulum has shifted very far with them.
Yeah. Anyways, teams on buys this week. Minnesota, Kevin O'Connell, who should be coach, up for coach of the year.
Agreed.
I mean, good for him.
Him and Sirianni got to be the leader right now.
Well, I would argue that 3 of the top coaches of the year are on buys. You got the Eagles are on a buy. Buffalo with Sean McDermott, who should be right there with them as well, and then the Rams. And the Rams need that buy because I don't know, Frank. You hear all the stuff with Stafford in the offseason about his elbow. I just don't know if he's fully healthy. And then you got all this weird stuff going on with Cam Akers and him requesting a trade, and it's a mess with the Rams right now.
But remember, I told you I just felt like it was going to be a weird year for them because they're so star-studded. They got the ring. They were out doing their thing as superstars do. And it just felt like this year might be one of those weird years for them where maybe they pick it up mid-year, but they just don't look like a really good football team yet.
Yeah. Yeah, they do not. But we'll see if the Bears can look like a good football team on Monday night. I will be watching the Manning cast because I want to hear some breakdown from Peyton and Eli on Justin Fields. So I'm hoping that just at the very least they're able to move the football and it's not just an absolute dreadful game. It's the one thing I really don't want. And I'm just so tired of the Bears always being on offense a national joke. The defense, people know that's what they know the Bears for, but it's just I'm so tired of the same old Bears can only score 7 points. Do something. Catch the fucking football. Goal number 1, catch the football.
I agree.
We'll see if they can do it this week, Frank, and then we'll do our post-game show on Monday night after the game is over. Let's hope we're in a better mood this time, Frankie. Till next week. I'll talk to you then, buddy.
Later, Jackie. Later, everybody.